Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sridhar. Joining me is Sridhar C, and we are going to be talking about a lot of events, very fast-moving developments. Let's welcome Sridhar Ji. Sridhar Ji, namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel. How are you, sir?
Namaskar, doing very well, sir. Always happy to be with you.
Thank you so much, sir. Viewers, we have a slide deck and a small request to all of you to please like this video. We have a lot of breaking information, including a new angle in the Ahmedabad air crash. So let's start with the US-India free or fair trade talks, or free trade agreement. I think it's free trade, right? FTA.
It is. Free
Over
trade.
to you, sir.
Or tariffs. Well, I think that we got a few, as Sriji pointed out, we got about 5-6 topics to cover. So let's just flip. So we'll summarize the topics that we'll be discussing. So are India-US trade discussions back on track? Because there are two media stories. One, which is coming from the government circles, which is Piyush Goyal and Minister for External Affairs, Dr. Subramaniam, and then you have Modi and Trump himself saying that India and US are great partners, and we'll find a way to strike a deal. And then there is also simultaneously, we'll cover that in a second. Then simultaneously the naval petrol jet deal, which is about $4 billion that is being signed. Then India prepares itself just in case things go wrong, as it happened before. How to create a buffer so that they can do subsidy augmentation to help the industries to sustain without losing jobs. So they got a 22 billion rupees, not dollars, aid package to the industry to cushion the impact. Then, of course, the famous topic, which Sri Iyer will kick off, which is what happened to the Ahmedabad Air India. How come the two fuel tanks simultaneously got cut off, which prompted one pilot to ask the question, hey, did you cut off the fuel tanks? Very interesting kind of saga to get to the bottom of that. I don't know whether they'll ever get to it, but that's a different story. Has inflation peaked? We saw the August numbers in US. I know there has been a tremendous amount of, what you call chorus in some of our stories, which is, the dollar is going to burst. Market economics is not equal to fiscal economics, and the inflation is going to eventually kill, etc. So we'll present some numbers, which shows that United States is way off track, but that doesn't mean that it is going to, fall off the rails. And then, finally, the point is rare earths the next global battlefield? When you look at some of the countries, we'll also bring a little bit of the crypto into the game. There is a simmering story behind, but just at least give you the data as to where the world is going. I don't know whether we can get to all of this, but we'll try to get as much as possible. If we miss, then we go to the next show. So are US-India trade talks back on track? The answer is I think so. I think so, based on my information with my colleagues or former colleagues or whosoever, and also based on the government. So I think they've at least settled down to a two-phase approach, which is namely to say what's the low-hanging fruit. The three items that we won't do, for example, are the agro, the GMO. Then we won't yield to the compromise on the quality of the dairy. But there are a lot of other things that we can do, particularly in the defense sector, preserving the exemptions on fertilizers, chemicals, and mobile devices, which is the completion, which is agreeing to all the deals. I don't think we're going to stop Trump from levying 1% charge on the foreign transactions. Then there are two 10-year deals that has been stitched up. One on defense and security between the two defense heads. One 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗦 and
Rajnath Singh?
𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗙 and Mr. Singh. So therefore, I think that will stay. And then there is also a nuclear agreement between United States opening up its Kabuna and offering nuclear capabilities under the pretext of market access. and probably providing full transfer of technology capability, which was mitigating earlier what they call as the 123 agreement, and getting access into the market. So I think some of these deals will be done, and leaving the complexity. Both Trump and Modi have responded respectively in their Twitter or X channel handles. And in the meanwhile, the left and woke are continuing to push, who are these people, Reuters, BBC, and so on, pushing the barrel, which is to say that Trump wants to impose 100%, 500% tariffs on Russia, on India and China. He wants Europeans to impose tariffs on China. Then Europeans basically, and or NATO countries say, hey, we can't completely stop oil, and we're not going to impose these unilateral huge tariffs because that's going to impact us both on oil as well as natural gas. So it looks like eventually Trump will have to concede ground two of his most key allies, which is NATO, and then of course clearly India is a very strategic ally, and of course the Indian diaspora within the United States has been working fervishly behind the scenes. So this is the tariff story. This is the tariff story, Sri.
Next one, please, sir.
Yeah. US India. So the first of the, they already was a Boeing deal. There's also the nuclear I mentioned to you. There's also the defense and security tie-up between the two nations. Now comes the P8I naval patrol, which is very critical for India in the Indian Ocean, and as well as in the Andaman, Nicobar, and the Malacca Strait. And they're going to sign a $4 billion deal, to acquire these planes. This was actually, if you go back in time, this will be one of the first deals that India went to United States and Trump with, which is to say, here's our order book, Chinook, then the Tiger helicopters, as well as the 8I, plus a whole bunch of other drones, unmanned vehicles. So I think they went with all of these things, and then it took a pause, but the one after the other defense deals has been getting signed. I already covered the defense framework. I also covered the nuclear agreement. Over to you, Sriji.
Sirji, this nuclear agreement, see, if you look at Gunangulam, I believe there's supposed to be 4 or 5 reactors there. Only 1 or 2 are operational. There's always constant friction. There's always this, mafia-induced protests and things of that nature. This technology, is it for nuclear power, or is it for nuclear energy, or is it for submarine nuclear technology, sir?
No, it's for nuclear power. It's for civil and commercial purposes. It's not for, at this stage, it's not for defense, but who knows, things can change quite dramatically based on the changing political atmosphere. The most important point, which just as a corollary to this, is we'll present, not in this session, another session, the kind of 10-year investment flows where we started, with various categories of power. You will find that in the past 10 years, solar, the amount of money that is going into solar occupies the highest. Nuclear is somewhere in the top 4. So therefore, or top 3, if I remember the data correctly. So what you're saying is, who is solar? Solar, one of the biggest solar powers is India. Of course, China is right there, but India is there. So to your point, Sriji, I think this is civil commercial rather than defense.
Next one, please, sir.
Relief package for exporters. The textile industry is up in arms. The gem and jewelry industry is up in arms because a lot of people are going to be, laid off. And there is an impetus to see what India can do, not only to protect the turf and protect the labor, protect the capabilities, protect the know-how, so that in the intervening period, alternative markets can be found, and also a favorable deal can be negotiated with United States. So India now has a framework, a fiscal framework coming from India, with this huge package, which will be funneled into the industry. Now, recall, going back, few shows, we said that there are two tools that India will apply. One is the fiscal tool. This is like an example of induction of capital. And then there's the monetary tool, which is namely, though the inflation is back at around 2% from around 1.8 or 1.6, I think India is going to take a bold step to ease the credit policy and to reduce the rate, which they have been doing. So they are going to apply both fiscal and monetary as a responsive framework to deal with the threat emanating from the tariff, and cushion and move the industry forward. So this also is a political win for Modi, but also an economic win in terms of continued progress of its GDP growth. Sriji.
Next one, please. Sir.
Yes.
This one, I just have two things, sir. You can weigh in on yours, but there are some new developments also. Go ahead, sir.
No, I think that this one I'll let you lead, and then I'll come in, Sriji.
So there are two angles that people are saying, that that the software could be the culprit, and the other one is that there appears to have been faulty water system that has been installed, and this water kind of drips and drops, and those things could have dropped on the electronics, and that would have created a short, and that might have completely shut down some of these things. That's one of the theories that's doing the rounds.
Well, I think right from the first, when we started this show, we had given detailed avionics, we had given the dashboard, we had indicated, and we kind of isolated, if you recall, myself and Sriji, we isolated it to possibly two areas, right? One is that there is a genuine software glitch which caused this unfortunate event to occur, where the fuel supply to both the engines got shut off simultaneously. And I'd spoken with somebody who has worked on this, and he says it's very much possible. It's happened in their labs tests and so on. I think the second one is, which is also a genuine issue, which is namely whether the maintenance work on this aircraft on ground, whether it is up to the mark. There are some serious questions as it relates to that. We don't have any conclusive evidence one way, but it appears if they sign off and you take off and then you have this problem, if it is not software, was there a maintenance kind of an issue? There's a third one, I'm sorry if I have to say this, that the Boeing, which has been let scotch-free in this instance, Boeing has had problems around the world in terms of shortcuts that they have taken and pursued using people, and not less than desirable quality people, under the pretext of costs and preserving their margins for profit, which has compromised the integrity and security of the electronics behind or maintenance capabilities, or maintenance and the capabilities of the aircraft. So all these three questions continue to be playing around, and the report that was released in late July, basically from the department of the government department, was the Director General of Civil Aviation, seems to point out that it is a kind of security. It's a very poor security standard maintained by Air India, and Air India has been given enough warnings, whether it's a political cop-out or whether it is genuine. That report actually evoked mixed reaction from the industry, but that's the government audit report, Sriji.
Thank you so much, sir. Let's go to the next topic. I have a few more updates on the corporate profits part. Let's do this, and we'll come to that because we're going to touch upon Bitcoin also. Sir, has inflation spiked since the tariff regime kicked in? US inflation not spiked yet, but the climb has begun. That's how I see it, sir. Slowly but steadily, the things have started creeping up.
Yes. You feel it in the pinch of your purse, say Sriji. So when you dish out some money, when you take out your wallet and dish out additional money for your, well, it's very interesting. The way the data is presented by the channels. It says once again, it's an advocacy kind of an approach. You need to look at aggregate data. You can't take, how much did the banana prices go up? How much did coffee price go up? How much did the price of the toys went up? And how much did the price of, jewelry went up? And then you kind of try to correlate. But the fact is, this is the fact. The fact is most of the retailers have absorbed the prices and not passed it on to the customers as yet in the bulk of the industry that supplies to the consumer. The next slide, you can see that the first tick of the thing here is this? No, there's one more slide. This is the.
Go to the next one, please. Yeah.
No, not this one. No, not this one. No, this slide has been missed. So let's kind of go further up. Okay, no, further up. So we leave it here. I'll try to send. If you can give me 30 seconds, Srija, I'll send that slide to.
Now go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Sachin.
Viewers, many of you are buying my book. I would really appreciate it if you can put in a review in the 𝙒𝙗𝙤𝙦 website itself as to what you thought of the book. It helps us to also understand where you are thinking, how you are thinking of how you are thinking of a book, because these days book reading is becoming slowly but steadily, few and lesser. Sir, there is I think Sachin has something. Take a look at this one, sir. Can you load it, please?
Yes, this is the data. So this August data is saying the inflation has ticked up from 2.9% in aggregate to about 3.1%. This is data as of September 11th, 2025, which is last Thursday. Okay, so therefore, this is what people are pointing out, which is namely to say that we are beginning to see the first signs of inflation. Inflation is a double-edged sword. It plays two ways. One, it plays on the ability of the Fed to cut rates. When inflation is ticking up, Fed is not going to cut the rates. So the story is that we have a problem. And as also, inflation target is 2%, not 4%. So we have that issue. Next slide.
No. Next one, please. Sir.
Yeah. Okay. So that slide came before. Sorry. Okay. We
missed it, sir. Our apologies. We missed it. Our apologies.
Yeah. No problem. So I think that particular thing points out that the inflation could go past 4% is what they are saying if the tariff regime continues in this, aggressive kind of posturing that Trump has taken, and some of his Looney Tunes have also taken that aggressive posture. So therefore, we are beginning to see the first signs of the climb. Remember, we were, around 6%. Not too far ago, we were around 4%, and we're not too far from that 4%. And then we have a real problem. But for somehow, the bond markets, which I'm not pointing out here, is pointing out that there is going to be a rate cut. And, the 10-year forecast, the 10-year treasuries are forecasting just around 4%. Remember, it was around 4.5%. So which prompted Fed governor to Dr. Powell to say, hey, you guys have jumped ahead of the curve, and just let's wait for the Fed board to meet and, make a decision. So interesting days, interesting times. But thus far, U.S. consumer has survived because the industry chose not to pass on those tariff prices to the customers. Okay, so that's what you're taking up. So the question that brings up next slide brings up is what happens to U.S. deficits and what happens to the U.S. dollar, and what's the long-term trend look like? So if we take a look at this chart, which is what does it mean for the US debt and cost? So we are now going to have pretty close to $1 trillion of interest costs in FY25, moving up from around $830 billion in FY24. So all those guys who are predicting doom and gloom for United States and it's going down the gurgle, yes, you have good news to celebrate. Yes, our debt is going up and the cost of our debt is also going up simultaneously, and a high interest rate regime in US doesn't help the cost of servicing that debt. Now, where does the debt cost sit within our kind of expense almanac? So go to the next slide. So you can see here that there is a third line item. Okay, of course, our big ticket item is Social Security, which is about 1.44 trillion. Just the cost on the expense side or the expense line item. Medicare is another big one, close to $1 trillion. Where is net interest? $923 billion, Sriji. We are almost there as far as FY25 is concerned. So next year, the interest cost is going to be greater than the cost of the Medicare, Sriji, under the continued kind of pattern that we are going, borrowing as much as is needed and beyond our capacity, if one has to use the word. And then if we go to the next slide, this is even more worrying for many. So if you see, remember guys, this is not, we tweaking with the data. This is, and you may have your own apprehensions, but this is by the National Budget Office, National Statistics Office, and the US Treasury, as well as the Fed. So all of them cannot be cooking numbers, but the numbers kind of start and stay out. So if you take a look at the numbers, we are talking about a significant number. By 2035, our debt will be equal to $2 trillion or $1.8 trillion. So from 2017 to 2035, we would have added just on interest costs. What we would have funded just on interest costs is close to $1.3 trillion. $1.3 trillion is what we would have paid by way of cumulative taxes, cumulative interest on our borrowings. Now, does that mean this is a death knell for United States? No, I think US will, immediately people will argue. US has got a printing press, so it can go on printing money and then keep servicing itself. Of course, it can have a printing press, but at the end of the day, there is also some element of fiscal discipline that US does maintain. The big problem in US debt is not the interest costs or borrowing. The big problem is that we have, which as I said, one of the shows we'll cover, purely when we do US budget, is the growing gap between receipts and expenses. The amount of money that we collect by way of receipts and the amount of money we spend by way of expenses. Third line item is interest costs. Very soon, it will be the second line item. It'll go way past the defense budget of the country. The problem that United States has is this gap that is continuing to grow and with no convergence in sight, what we call as balancing the budget. That's when we will not be adding, at least for that year or for that period, further costs to the debt of the US balance sheet. So I think this is what our friend Trump is our President Trump is trying to fix. And what are the kind of tools that they're kind of looking at? So we'll go to the next step. Next slide. Bitcoin. Yes, they want to see whether they can monetize or bring that in as a recognizable asset. Remember, right now, only now we have allowed ETF. It is kind of off the markets right now, what we call our balance sheet items. But right now we have introduced ETFs so we can recognize. So US is trying. I believe it has got somewhere close to north of $2 trillion worth of Bitcoins in its reserves, which it can bring to bear on its balance sheet. But it is number one in terms of the holding of the Bitcoins. And not too far from them is China. Not too far from them, or way far from them, is Britain. Now we are fighting Ukraine battle. Why we are fighting Ukraine battle? Ukraine is home to both rare earths and bitcoins. So there is some method behind this kind of madness. So one of the things that Howard Lutnick, who is our Treasury Secretary, who is our Trade and Commerce Secretary, is looking at is, how do you create a basket of commodities or currencies or assets which could what you call hedge the US dollar. So Bitcoin is one of them, and it's a significant holdings that United States carries. Next, please.
Sir, before we go to rare earths, so I have a question, sir. I've been following Bitcoin quite closely. There's a hard fork. Viewers, what a fork is if you're doing software, right? You're keeping on releasing version after version after version after version. Sometimes what happens, if it is like open source or something that is freely shared, what happens is you have forks where if you go in one path, it is no longer compatible with the older path. It's called as a hard fork. Now, what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sridhar Ji, is that Bitcoin creators have suddenly discovered that Bitcoin could be vulnerable to quantum computing. So they want to quantum proof it. So there is a new version of Bitcoin that is being readied. I'm thinking it's called Bitcoin Cash or something of that nature. And this one is going to be the same 21 million. In other words, somebody who has a Bitcoin will end up having two versions of the Bitcoin. One that is a classic one, and the new one, which is supposedly quantum proof. So this, to me, as a technical person, reflects that there is a loophole in Bitcoin technology. And I wonder if the pithy valuations that Bitcoin enjoys, aren't they? I mean, if one can crack it, the whole edifice comes crumbling down, sir.
Well, I think, the whole underlying architecture, what they call, Sriji's Web 3.0 or Web 4.0, right?
Yes.
The whole underlying is built on the notion that conventional monetary tools or monetary value of exchanges are built on Web 1.0 or Web 0. So the world requires a Web 3.0, Web 4.0 kind of a technology toolkit, which is not only foolproof, but which is not controlled by the government, mandated by the government, but yet it is linked to a fiat, and it is universally accessible without any discrimination. If you listen to these crypto czars, they go about it as though they're trying to create this new world or new universe with these technologies. So my view on the quantum computing, there is this battle between quantum computing and the traditional kind of a world. Thus far, if I have to put my hands, my money in the hat, quantum is still some distance to go. So I believe that that is an attempt, to shift the paradigm. While in the meanwhile, you have now slowly government normalizing the traditional crypto, and there is also now two types of stable coins: open loop and closed loop. For example, large institutions have are issuing stable coins. Example, JP Morgan, what you call a closed loop, which means you cannot buy that stable coin and use it elsewhere. You can hold it you can have it in your holdings, and you can use it as an instrument of exchange within the JP Morgan ecosystem. It would not allow you, whether it is B2B or B2C, you can use it within the ecosystem. So I think that you are beginning to see the traditional model more holding its way, while the quantum computing people come into play, Sriji.
Thank you so much, sir. I've looked at the stablecoin asset class. I have my reservations. We'll take it up later, sir. Maybe we can do a separate program, because there's this tether that is being talked up quite a bit. I had actually a specialist come in and talk about it. In fact, the Genius Act allows space way for stable coins. And what is it that is so great about it? Because as somebody holding stable coins, other than the fact that I can buy in dollars anywhere in the world, the asset itself does not rise in value. That's my grouse. You see what I'm saying? I mean, if I hold a stock, the stock gives dividends. I only hold dividend paying stocks. I don't care. I mean, growth doesn't cut it. I mean, think of me as a curmudgeon if you want. I only hold dividend stocks because if the stock price doesn't go up, at least the dividend is coming in. So I say, okay, there is one hedge against inflation. I'm a very conservative investor, sir. But same way, we will talk about stable coin as a separate asset. This is new. And I would like as a banker, what do you think of it, sir?
Yeah. You want me to answer right now or later in a different show?
No, we'll do it later, sir. We'll do a separate session because that is something that's going to be around for a long time. Sir.
Indeed. Okay, so why the rare earths are the next battlefield? Because this is not only applicable in from AI to EVs to a variety of digital electronic kind of platforms. And so the world is quite, is in pursuit. If you go back, when antagonistic view was taken between Pakistan and India by the US government, everybody felt that Pakistan sold a dummy to President Trump, saying that it has got, oodles of rare earths, in Balochistan. And so Balochistan is the place where they have to go and do all this digging. But the fact is that the rare earths are relevant, especially for use of it in various industrial applications. Just one data point before we go to the next slide on rare earths. If you recall, one of the deals that Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi is supposed to have struck pre-SCO summit and during the SCO summit and talked about is to ensure that there is continued supply of fertilizers and there is resumption of supply of rare earths. It has not happened. Both of these things have not happened. So now let's kind of, flip to the why China is playing the game. So you can see this. Who is a dominant player in rare earths? China. Who comes next? United States comes next. And then you have a range of other players from Australia to Thailand to Russia, etc. So there sits Russia and China together. Russia and China sit together not only in bitcoins, they sit in oil, they sit in natural gas, they sit in rare earths, they sit in inert gases. So you are beginning to see this kind of China-Russia combination, and Trump is trying as much as possible, notwithstanding the fact that US does have a fair amount of these assets, but not as much as what China and Russia can put together and what they can unleash. So China clearly is holding its way. Just as we speak today, NVIDIA has been found by China, lo and behold, through their legal system. They are in antitrust and monopoly violations by the Chinese courts. There's no surprise because Trump tried to use NVIDIA to block the NVIDIA chips going to China. So China is saying, hey, all the stuff that you've done with me so far is illegal. So now I'm going to put lots of fines on you. You may want to call it a tariff 2 or China's tariffs, but China is coming back on NVIDIA. How exactly they'll enforce the punishment, let's wait and see as the market stories develop. Next slide.
I think that was the last slide. Go ahead, sir.
No. So I think that, so we talked about, dollar as a currency or monetary unit as a currency. They have talked about the Bitcoin on the crypto side as a currency. We discussed briefly stable coin is of no value. Maybe Tether is of value, Sriji. And then we talked about the rare earths coming into play as an asset class. Now we are looking at minerals. Okay, minerals include rare earths. We have heard of why lithium is important, why cobalt is important, why graphite is important. All of these things are an integral part of our daily life. And if you go through this, you will find in many of these important strategic minerals, China does hold its sway. And of course, some of the other countries like United States, Australia, even India has got, I am told, enough of rare earths in its resources reserve. So this is the next battlefield, I believe, based on all the market gossip and market activity that we are seeing, which is namely to say we are beginning a new world. And I know many people critiqued it in terms of where the concentration of market value of companies is. And if you follow that track, and you will begin to see some of these unfolding stories. So this is one group of people within, I am sure, China. I don't know about India, but one group of people in the United States who are working hard within Treasury to look at how do we kind of build a multi-model asset class, which when you put together gives a formidable strength to respective currencies. And this is how they are going to combat the debt, as well as the issue around the burgeoning interest costs that United States faces. And they want to come up with a formula to cut the debt as well as to cut the interest rate costs, Sriji.
Thank you so much, Sridhar ji. A couple of things before we go to question and answers. Number one, rare earth. See, Myanmar is getting ready for elections. I think it's going to be in December. Whatever you can say, there's going to be still a sham or not, because the last time Aung San Suu Kyi won it, and they basically threw the whole verdict out, and junta just grabbed back power, and she is still in house arrest. She's part of one of her party is part of that Three Brotherhood Alliance, if I remember correctly. And from what I have heard, the Chinese, how should I say this thing, squatters in Myanmar have been driven out by the Three Brotherhood Alliance to a large extent. 30 to 50,000 people have been driven out, and so that as a resource, the rare earth resource in Myanmar for China has become a little bit harder to get hold of. That's what I've heard. I'll get an expert to weigh in on exactly what's going on. My point in trying to make all these things is India is, I think, getting grip over its situation in Manipur, its situation in Mizoram, its situation in Myanmar. It is going to play a decisive role. In fact, India has successfully kept out US from creating this humanitarian corridor, which was another word for trying to get access to the same rare earth materials, except they wanted to do it from within Bangladesh, where US feels that it has a good leg in, although they are kind of papering over some killings that have happened of US personnel in Bangladesh. Two people who have been thrown from a big tower and they fell to their death, and one person, people say he's a colonel, others say no, he's a 2-star general. No idea what happened. That fellow is also dead. So US is having its own set of problems. This could be intelligence battles, who knows. Everybody is in Bangladesh these days. So I just wanted to say that rare earths is very much in play in this. Next, sir, TikTok is supposed to get banned tomorrow if no deal is reached, and I'm hearing that the US and Chinese lobby are talking to try and save it. So this is what Trump has said. The big trade meeting in Europe has gone very well. It will be concluding shortly. A deal was also reached on a certain company that young people in our country very much wanted to save. You know what? India at least showed that they have testicular gravitas when they banned that 100 plus apps of China in India. India doesn't get CapCut, it doesn't get TikTok, it doesn't get PUBG, it doesn't get many other things. And that takes a lot of resolve, viewers. And we have to tip our hat to Modi, because our spineless invertebrate politicians don't want to touch TikTok just because the youth want to see it. It's a bad influence. It is leaking data. Our future generations' data is completely getting compromised. Shut it down. That's what I would say. Sir, your thoughts?
Well, I think that I'm a skeptic of the Chinese policies per se, and skeptic of anything that China unleashes. And India has gone full circle one way, and then full circle the opposite way. We conceded everything. If you look at the number of Chinese companies in the Indian footprint, it is quite mammoth. Now, to your point, I agree with you, but there is no political will in terms of reversing that course, Sriji, or coming up with a very strong policy. Now, what is happening? This Modi, as a response to Trump's policy, goes to China and says, we're going to open up the trade. We are going to open up the routes. We are going to open up the airlines. We are going to allow people to come. We are going to allow people. I mean, does India or United States, forget India. United States has no capacity, technology. United States defense, United States energy and power, energy and logistical infrastructure, water plants, sewerage, all have been compromised. You have to go back to 4 years or 3.5 years of our DGI show where we covered, how from Florida to Nevada, the infrastructure is compromised and how our energy and power sectors in New Jersey were taken out, and how the complete defense was breached through cybersecurity by the Chinese. So therefore, I mean, there's enough data that is out there. And yet, if, India thinks that it has the wherewithal, I mean, and this is where you get pushback, which is namely to say, oh, Modi knows everything from, spick and span and he can take care of it. I wish that's the case. And God bless. And, and best wishes to Modi ji in his pursuit in terms of, again, Russia is a different kettle of fish, but China is an entirely different one when it comes to Xi Jinping and Wang Yi.
Next one, please. Sir, I think we are done with the question, the slide deck. Let's take some questions if you don't mind. We need to quickly go through them. We have quite a few questions. Anandan Doreswamy says, Sridhar ji, any update on the GE engine saga?
No, G, I don't have anything as yet, but we'll try to follow up and come back to you within the next couple of shows. No, sir.
Milburn wants to know, Boeing Sam Salehpour, the whistleblower, was right in his confession. Oh, there were 4 or 5. 2 of them are died, or 3 are died.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a saying, there is no smoke without fire. So it's obviously there's lots of things wrong with Boeing, and it's obviously was he right in his confession? Definitely, there is some elements of it is what you can say confession. What's the future of India air purchasing? No, F-35s are off. I think India has proven. India will order, I am told, 116 more Rafale planes, notwithstanding the fact some noise in the system. 116 additional they will order and create a full combat fleet and also equip it with all kinds of budgetary or all kinds of widgetry, including some obtained from Israel. So it's powerful and formidable. So I think India is well down the path. I'm, as I say, banker, geopolitical analyst, but please do ask the defense experts. But I'm told that platform has worked for India and India is moving forward. F-35 is over. No F-35 to India.
So 114 is the number, sir. And I believe a lot of them could be actually ended up completely manufactured in India. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep. Yeah.
Crypto Buzz wants to know, what about the black box data? Well, the one black box was damaged. See, there is a problem. Boeing is trying to obfuscate something, much more of a deeper problem, in my opinion. Sir, you have anything to add to that, sir?
No, I think that the black box data was inconclusive, and as it is partially damaged, and they took it, and we haven't got anything out of that investigation. So therefore, I think it stays where it stays.
Milburn wants to know, do you think the deep state could have a secret hand in cryptocurrency and others like it, and it could get nasty?
Do the bad boys have a big say in cryptocurrency? 250%. The answer is yes. What kind of game they play, we don't know. But is the cryptocurrency being used in all kinds of activities? The answer is yes. What is the size of that ecosystem? I wish we can quantify and tell you the size of the ecosystem is so much for laundering, for buying drugs, for arms, for various kinds of things, etc. So therefore, we wish we could say, for obviously security reasons, we're not going to reveal, but there's a good amount of crypto that was used in various kind of terrorist attacks around the world. And hence they could
Apamaya wants to know, will the high rejection of F1 visa for Indian students be reversed by the USA?
F1 and H1B both are reversible, but let's wait and see what Trump does and what kind of reforms and policies that they will bring to bear in terms of conditions for issuing the visa and the conditions for fulfillment post completion of your activities, and what happens to the individuals.
Where is the gold rate heading to? Your views, sir?
At least 4,000 before the end of the year.
Next one, please. Vijaya wants to know, Sridhar ji, while I agree with with respect to Indian policy on China, given the tariff situation and Trump blows to India, does it not backfire on the GDP growth?
Well, I think the GDP growth is, you don't go from fire to oven to the fire. So the story is here, your response policy for Trump's tariffs is not going to China. You're already net $100 billion in deficit. And how much more you are going to increase on your reliability and assume that China is a willing and able partner? And right throughout, is it 12 years, Sriji Modi's regime, 12 years, you constantly critique what kind of understanding that the Congress party had with China, where it kind of gave everything away. And now you say that, is it a response? No, the response is quite simple. India cut off buying some amount of oil from United States and allocated that to Nigeria. So they must go and buffer and find ways by which they are willing to work with partners who are willing to be doing additional and incremental business by way of imports from India or exports from India to those countries. That is how you mitigate. You do not go to China and say, I'm embracing you, brother, when you have had so many issues.
Thank you so much, sir. Viewers will be picking up from where we left off in this program, in Sumit Peer's program today, where we look at the rare presence of Arab unity. All of them are now beginning to shiver because the Hamas leadership was taken out in Qatar. And I think Qatar is getting well deserved, in my opinion, because they were trying to, run with the hares and hunt with the hounds. So, sir, again, this is my myopic vision. I could be
we called it. We call this. All the three regimes about 12 to 18 months ago. Did we not call this, Sriji? Which is to say, all roads point to Qatar, but nobody believed it at that point of time.
Yeah, the thing is, the royal family, the Al Thanis, who are the basic guys who are in power in Qatar, think they are clever by half. So you will get your input at some point of time. Sir, this is all I have. Thank you so much, sir. We'll be back again next Sunday. This Sunday, we had some data issues, but we'll be back again next Sunday with Sridhar Ji, same time, 7 p.m. Namaskar.
Namaskar, and have a wonderful day or have a wonderful evening, and best wishes to all.